Okay, we're back to part two. Now, going through the next four lists of some of the most overrated wrestlers of all time. At number four, I got Bill Goldberg. This guy was one of the most overhyped wrestlers. As they were hyping this guy, they overhyped this guy more than he should have been hyped as one of the next big things in wrestling. Yeah, he was the one that sort of helped rep WCW in the ratings, but I still feel this guy was very overrated. As like I said, they hyped this guy as the next big thing, and this guy was gonna outshine some of the wrestlers in WCW. But in all honesty, this guy didn't really show me anything. Yeah, he did have one or two moves, but really he didn't really show me anything to the point where I would say, hey, this guy's gonna be one of the next big things. As he just got overhyped to death, as they were saying, he was one of the next big things in wrestling and everything like that. And really, I didn't see much in this guy. As this guy was very green in WCW, but they still overhyped this guy when he first came to WCW, and then he really improved. He improved a little bit, but he didn't really improve to the point where you say this guy was one of the next big things in wrestling. And that's one of the reasons why I got Goldberg at number four, as he just was just overhyped to death. Mainly I just don't know why WCW did that, but they did, and that's one of the reasons why I got him at number four. Is he was just overhyped to death, and to not to mention the guy was not good at promos, not good at cutting promos. He was awful at promos. His wrestling ability sucked, and he just didn't have no passion for the wrestling business at all. And he really didn't even try in some of his matches, and that's one of the reasons why I got him at number four. Number three, a guy that was sort of put on a pedestal when it came to the wrestling business, and many people say high praises about, and that's Lex Luger. Really, I just feel this guy is very overrated. He had a very limited move set. He oversold too much in his matches, couldn't cut a promo worth a damn, and some wrestlers had a hard time getting a good match out of him. And that's one of the reasons why I feel Lex Luger is one of the most overrated wrestlers, as he's just not a very good wrestler, and he had the complete package, but overall he was not a very good wrestler. Some people were hyping him up to be, or talking about or praising him out to be, like how they talk about most wrestlers back then. They talk and praise about how good Lex Luger was, but in reality, he was just very overrated. As, like I said, this guy had a very limited move set, couldn't cut a promo. Some wrestlers had a hard time getting a good match out of him, oversold too much, and that was basically it. And I just don't see why he's considered up there as one of the greatest wrestling superstars of all time. Just very overrated in my opinion. Number two, I got Jeff Jarrett, another wrestler that many people put on a high pedestal as one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Now, don't get me wrong, the guy has wrestling ability, but really he's not as good as many people say he is. His wrestling ability is okay, but he has some few moves. He's okay at promos, and sometimes he can get a good match out of somebody, but most of the time he really can't. And some of his matches aren't really that good. I mean, some of his matches throughout his career aren't really that good. So I just don't know why some people put him on a pedestal, like how they put Triple H at a pedestal. And I already talked about that on part one, why he's overrated. And this is pretty much the same thing I'm saying about Jeff Jarrett, as he's not that bad of a wrestler, but many people just praise the guy as being one of the best wrestlers of all time. In reality, he's sort of below some of the guys in the wrestling business today. And that's one of the reasons why I feel Jeff Jarrett is overrated, and he's one of my number two or most overrated wrestlers of all time. Then we go to number one, Hulk Hogan, another wrestler who's very overrated. This guy is hyped as one of the next wrestling, as one of the big stars in wrestling. Well, he's not that bad, and he did make WCW and the WWF a lot of money. I'll give him that, but still, this guy, when it came to wrestling, his wrestling ability was awful. I mean, he had a very limited moveset, although he did have some good matches in Japan. But when you come to the USA, when you see some of his matches in the WWF and WCW and stuff like that, well, out not Japan, but WWF and WCW, he's really overrated in the ring. He has a very limited move set. He has a limited move set. He it's hard to sort of get a good match out of him, and he really hasn't put on any good matches throughout his illustrious career. Although he only has a couple matches that I know in WWF, and maybe one or maybe 5 or 6 good matches in WCW. Still, that doesn't help the fact that he was just not that good in the ring. His promos were not that good, as he would stumble and he wouldn't know what he was saying half of the time, and he would mess up on his lines and stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I got him at number one. As many people put him on a pedestal as a guy who can cut good promos and who's very good in the ring, when in reality he wasn't good in all those categories. That's one of the reasons why I got him at number one. Don't get me wrong, though. The man did make money for WCW, and he helped the wrestling business, but still, when it came to WWE and WCW, he really wasn't that good of a wrestler, and that's one of the reasons why he's very overrated in my opinion. Anyhow, this is just part two of a video requested by nepoznatiqt, asking me to do a video request for the top 10 most overrated wrestlers of all time. Hopefully this video turns out well and I explain why these wrestlers are overrated. You can rate, you can comment, give me a video response. And until then, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you whenever I upload another video. Until then, Fitness65 out. Remember to rate, remember to comment, send me a video response if you like, and like I said, till then, see you whenever I see you. I'm out. Peace.